Happy Friday. So, over the last few months, I've been on somewhat of a quest to improve my internal state. Now, my internal state wasn't particularly gnarly to begin with, but I do notice that I tend to pivot quite strongly. So, I have a hard time in general with consistency, especially of mood. So, there are a variety of reasons for this, but I really want to experience general consistency so that even when good things happen or bad things happen, I'm not going like this. I'm going a little bit more like this. I want to smooth out the edges of my responses because it really throws me off. If something bad happens and I feel really bad for a while, it really throws me off, which is probably true of many of us. I mean, some of us have a lot more... It's interesting to observe different types of people. Just a little side tangent. But it's obvious to say not everyone feels the way that I feel. So not everyone has the same kind of experience of life that I do. So I tend to feel things in bigger waves or bigger spikes. But I know a lot of people, I tend to draw these kinds of people into my life who have a much steadier foundation, and their highs aren't too high and their lows aren't too low. They're much more even. And I feel like I need these kinds of people in my life, or I gravitate towards people like this generally. Some of my closest friends and partners and things like that have been people who are very like level. So I aspire to that for several reasons. So one, I think a part of happiness and peace involves some degree of consistency. I kind of want to just not be on the roller coaster of life all the time. I want to have more control. So I don't want to be at the whim of my moods. If something bad happens, I don't want to automatically have that cascade into a several days long retreat from life. And I feel like this would improve my overall life satisfaction, and it would almost definitely improve my relationships with other people as well, because then I'm not taking someone else down on my spirals when they so happen. So this is an important area of development for me. And one thing that I've been working on or trying to pay attention to. So I have a friend who does coaching, and he's super into meditating as well. So I've had some really good conversations with him. Especially we like going deep on personal issues. And one thing that he has suggested to me he probably suggested this almost a year ago now, was to feel actually just experience your feelings. What does it physically feel like? So if I'm angry, where does the anger live in my body? What does anger feel like? Most of us understand anger as a concept in our head, but what is it in our body? Because if you can find the anger, if you feel it physically, it's much easier to accept, process, and release it. As opposed to if it's just a kind of a mental model that lives in your head and you're not paying attention to the bodily sensations of it. It's a little bit harder. It's easier to get in these unproductive thought loops. So, and this can be done with all kinds of feelings. So with joy, for example, what does joy feel like? What does boredom feel like? Or lethargy, or basically anything. But most importantly, if I'm having the experience of resisting a particular emotion, that's when I want to try to identify it in my body, because resistance is what creates pain. So for example, if I feel angry, which for the record, this is not a feeling that I struggle with. I'm not an angry person. So anger isn't one of my struggle points, but I'll use it as an example. If I'm feeling angry, then I can accept that feeling, understand it, digest it, or I can tell myself I shouldn't feel angry because of X, or try to block it out, try to maybe beat myself up about that feeling a little bit, I'm a bad person for feeling this, or I'm getting mad at someone else, I have been wrong, justice has not been served, and I shall serve it with my rage. That's a type of resistance. So you're not accepting the anger. You're rejecting it in the form of telling yourself that it's not I shouldn't be feeling this. That is a form of rejection. If you're really angry and you're punishing someone else with your anger, that's a type of rejection, because you're not consciously processing that feeling. But if you feel the anger in your body, if you take a moment and feeling it in your body enables you to more rapidly accept it. If you can sit with that feeling and feel angry and also feel that it's okay, like you accept it, it's like, okay, I'm experiencing anger and this feels like a knot in my gut. I feel a little shaky, like like I've had too much caffeine, whatever, however you identify it. It's different for everyone. You identify it and then you say, okay, I accept this. I'm not a bad person for feeling anger. The other person is not a bad person for being implicit in this anger that I'm experiencing. And just sitting with that is so powerful. So this tends to tie into, I know this is something that I've come across here and there when I'm reading about meditation as well. Just the idea to pinpoint feelings in the physical body. So an example of this is, as I've been trying to find more emotional consistency, one thing I'm trying to do is notice what it feels like when I get really stressed out. So there are certain things in life that more easily trigger stress in me. And my experience of stress tends to be very jagged edges. Like if I were to draw a picture of stress, it's like really sharp edges and like it's a bumpy feeling. I guess bumps aren't necessarily sharp. It's like a pokey, like stabby feeling. It's like my energy kind of goes like this. It's really, it's kind of unpleasant. I feel like stress tends to live like in here. I tend to get like jittery. My words get a lot more sharp as well, as a reflection of kind of that inner sharpness. And what I've been noticing lately, just paying a little bit more attention, working through the book Feeling Good, is that I notice a lot more smoothness when I'm experiencing this. So I was feeling stressed today. One thing about having my own business is that I do have to make some degree of big decisions for long-term projects. It's not just about creating videos and courses and slapping them together. It's sort of thinking about, okay, does this serve the long range vision of what I want my business to be? I have to make a lot of like higher level decisions, and I need to be in a high state of consciousness in order to make these decisions properly. And these decision making processes can make me stress out. They can trigger stress. But I noticed today, as I was observing the feeling of stress in my body, it wasn't bumpy anymore like it's been in the past. The edges were much smoother, which is really quite lovely, because even though I don't feel like I'm at the point where I can just totally shift and just like, okay, I'm happy now, or like just erasing the stress, I feel like at the very least I accept it. So I wasn't punishing myself in any way, like, oh, Allysia, like you should be able to figure this out, or like just get it together, man, like kind of the inner disciplinarian. And I also wasn't projecting my stress in an outward way, in the way that I interact with other people, because I feel like I've managed, by noticing these feelings, to smooth their sharp edges. And when I was paying attention to the stress and the way that I was feeling, I was saying words like, okay, I feel heavy. So my energy level feels heavy, a little bit weighed down, like my spirit's holding a rock or something like that. Sitting on the couch felt like I was just really kind of like heavily sinking into the couch. And my default state is very airy. I feel like I have a very light energy typically. So I'm like, okay, this is interesting to note. This is different from the way that I usually experience reality, like just this heavy feeling. Anyway, being able to notice this and being able to accept this, even if I don't feel like I have the emotional energy to shift into a different gear in this exact moment, it is a way to, it's a step in the right direction, because by accepting the state that stress happens sometimes and it's a part of life, it's just one step on the road to be able to be more in control of my emotional responses to the things that I encounter in my reality. It feels like progress. So it's just something to try. The next time you experience a negative emotion, are you accepting it or are you rejecting it? And what does it feel like? That's what I want to leave you with this weekend, and I'll catch up with you guys later.